Hey everyone, welcome back to this series on digital clones. This episode will focus on privacy and ownership of digital clones. If you haven't seen the other videos, please start from scratch. It's a whole build-up, and you don't want to miss the previous episodes that lead up to this one. But if you don't want to do that, let me recap. A digital clone is a complete digital representation of you that can act independently of you and can live on after you die. And you will make one by feeding it lots of data and training it via some digital clone creation service. And this will be weird because if it's really going to be authentic, then it will have to include candid data sets because that's the real you. And only then will your digital clone be indistinguishable from the real you. If you're up to speed, please click like and subscribe. Okay, here we go. Privacy and ownership. Once you create your digital clone, you can do all kinds of things with it. You can make it star in a movie, you can get it to sing a song, talk to it, have other people talk to it, and in some cases get paid to do so. And as described in the previous video, all you'll need to do is to take your digital clone instructions and hook it up to a service. So if someone else gets a hold of your instructions, they can also take it and hook it up to a service. Now this will surely be illegal, but as you've noticed the past 25 years, it is not easy to enforce laws on digital piracy. Let me take you on a trip down memory lane to the late 90s when MP3s were new on the scene. We music lovers could store all the music we had on a hard drive. Before this, we had CDs, and you could only take so many with you on a trip, and you had to pay for them. With MP3s, all of a sudden, we could mix and match them into playlists. We could send them to friends for free simply by sending them in an email. Now, you could download entire discographies for free online. Now, the music industry was in a panic, both the managers and the artists, because the information they collectively owned in the form of recorded songs was now on the streets for anyone to steal and use however they wanted. Will it be the same with our digital clones? If so, what can we do? Now, this is where technologies like blockchain might come in. Whereas the primary task of AI is to think, blockchain's primary task is to know. It knows how much Bitcoin you have, right? And it will know which digital clone is yours. I guess you could think of it as a sort of thumbprint, something unique to you that can't be reproduced. And somewhere in all the steps that some digital clone service does, one of them will always be checking, is this really you? And of course, surely encryption will also enter the picture so that our digital clone instructions can be stored securely. Maybe it'll also be part of some standards that any company that wants to store your digital clones will need to comply with. But then again, maybe digital clone instructions will be such a compilation of millions of database records and layers of code that will be integrated into a much larger architecture that it won't be easy to isolate them and simply copy and paste them like you do with MP3s. In any case, one difference will be the changing nature of your digital clone. It will always be evolving. Remember how it messed up some details about my childhood in the previous video and I had to correct it? That correction is part of the AI training process. It acts as an update to my digital clone, and only my official version will get the updates. Now, perhaps a small consolation and source of comfort. As with anything we do or save or share online, privacy will be a concern, and it will be even more concerning when it involves our digital essence. But there's another aspect of privacy I want to talk about, and that's the privacy we have in our own lives with our real self. As we talked about in the previous video, you've heard the expression, I'm a private person. We are all private people. There are corners of our mind that we don't share with everyone, even ourselves. The process of creating our digital clone instructions, if we really give it full access, we'll find those corners and digitize them. Corners that we don't even consciously know about. It will be one thing for our digital clone to tell us about those corners. It will be another for our digital clone to leak that information to the world. What kind of information am I talking about? Our fears, our anxieties, our doubts of self-worth, about our looks, how dumb we think we are sometimes, and our thoughts, our impure thoughts of sex, violence, greed, jealousy, and betrayal. I know we all have these dark thoughts. Me too. I'm sure you too can acknowledge we all have them. But it's another thing to actually reveal them, your personal versions, including the people involved in these thoughts and those who helped create them, to the world. This may be the ultimate showstopper to the whole digital clone thing. It may be way too scary for us to allow real cloning of ourselves because that would mean that our digital clones have all those secrets stored in them and we are not in complete control of guarding them. So will we give it full access as described in the last video, say here, and give it all the data sets and let AI conclude whatever AI will conclude about us, and then after the fact, find a way to guard our secrets? Or will we create fake versions of ourselves by a very deliberate process where we selectively, very carefully, give our digital clone the information we want it to have? much like we already do now on social media, showing our friends, family, and followers only the best parts of us. Something to think about, and I've been thinking about it during the course of these videos, and I think we'll have to save that conclusion for a separate video. Let's move on to ownership. The big question is, who should own your digital clone? Now, certainly you, and not the company you created it on. And what about after you die? Well, you need to stipulate in your will what the living will need to do with your digital clone, and who will be its caretaker. What if we create a digital clone of John Lennon? Who will own it? Yoko? His estate? This question is answered by a thing called copyright laws. Copyright laws can take on a mundane definition and be who owns a piece of work. But if we give it a more overarching definition, it is the link between the biological world and the cultural world. A biological creature or creatures created a cultural creature, aka a work of art, and a copyright law ensures that the benefits of that cultural creature are passed down to the biological creature. And so copyright laws allow for businesses, a group of people, to own works of art. And they will be involved in monetizing digital clones. Will they be allowed to partially own your digital clone if they're involved in funding its creation? Let's think of Taylor Swift. She is signed to UMG, I believe. So UMG is a big company, and Taylor Swift herself probably has a company where she owns maybe 80%, maybe her manager owns 20%, who really knows? But the point is, Taylor Swift is a person who makes music, but her music and her likeness, etc., are not solely owned by her. They are owned by a bunch of people working under potentially several companies. When she dies, these songs, her image, and those contracts that govern the shared ownership will live on. That's business and it's legal. Will we allow for the same possibilities with digital clones? Or will we protect them as we protect actual people? No one is legally allowed to own another person, and the question now will be, can they own someone else's digital clone? In the end, we're going to need some laws, and we're going to need them fast. And those laws will need to be internationally recognized and enforced. And of course, that will be a major challenge. But I think even if the technology to create digital clones is here today, we won't see any major mainstream adoption until the laws are solid and people trust that they can and will be enforced properly. Okay, that was privacy and ownership. And as I mentioned a minute ago, a major subject in all this will be the inevitable and deliberate differences between you and your digital clone. With two burning questions being looked at. Will it even be possible to make a convincing digital representation of ourselves? And would we even want to? Find out in the next video. Please click like and subscribe, and it'll show up in your feed when it comes out. Until then, hope to see you in the comments section to discuss. Bye-bye.